This morning we're going to learn how to we're going to learn how to simplify square roots. First off, what is a square root? For example, if I asked you, what's the square root of 25? I think everybody would say 5. But why is it 5? Because 5 times 5 is 25. So what's the square root of 36? 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. Okay. Well, what's the square root of... And this equals 5, and as a general rule, we'll say plus or minus 5. And we'll talk about that a little bit. What if I have the square root of something like 40? How do I simplify that without making a decimal? Simplify doesn't mean put it in a calculator and come up with a decimal. It means write it in smallest terms, or the smallest possible square root. So, well, it's a pretty simple process. All you're going to do is you're going to take the square root of 40 and you're going to write it as 2 square roots multiplied together. So you just have to ask yourself, what will multiply to give you 40? Well, the trick to this is that one of the numbers, generally the first one, needs to be off of this list over here. So we have our square numbers here, 1, 4, 9, 16, and so on. The first one needs to be off 40. I think all of us can see that it would have to be 4. So in other words, 4 times something to give me 40. Well, that would be 10, wouldn't it? So simply put, we already know the square root of 4, and that's 2. So simplified, we end up with 2 times, we don't usually put the dot in there, but we could, 2 times the square root of 10. That's how we simplify the square root of 40. How about the square root of 72? I like this one because people generally get it wrong. Need 2 square roots. The first one's off the list. Now the key to this is we want to simplify the root and make it as small as possible. That means we need a big number off of this list. Yes, I could write 9 and 8, but we need the biggest number that comes off of, that goes into 72. So you grab your calculator, you look at the division button, you say 72 divided by 100, divided by 81. And we're just trying to divide by these numbers over here. 100, 81, 64, 49, 36. Hey, 72 divided by 36 works. So 36. 36 times 2, so this would be 6, square root 2. And once again, as a general, we put a little plus and minus in here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is the basic idea of simplifying square roots. All right, well, what about third roots? It's written like this. The third root of 8. What is the third root of 8? It's a little harder to think about, but what is the third root of 8? It's a number that when you multiply it 3 times, you get 8. So I think we can see that it's 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So the third root of 8 is 2. So the third root of 27 is 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So hopefully you see the pattern there. All right, once again, what about roots like the third root of 128? Well, if you look over here on the list, we have 1,000. Keep looking, it's not there. I could estimate that it's between these two numbers, 125 and 216. Well, the third root of 125 is 5, and the third root of 216 is 6. So it's going to be a little bigger than 5. It's going to be like 5.1. But once again, we don't want a decimal. We want to simplify it using roots. So I need some number off this list, just like before. I need some number off this list so that when I multiply these together, I get 128. So what would work here? Looks like if we take 64 times 2, I get 128. And what is the third root of 64? It is 4, because 4 to the third power, or 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So the third root of 64, we know that one, that's 4, times the third root of 2, that is simplified. 4 times the third root of 2 is the same as the third root of 128. Notice, we simplified the root. We made it smaller, a smaller root number. All right, let me see here. How about we do one more example here? How about the third root? Oh, I did it again. How about the third root? Let's see here, 1024. Third root of 1024. Well, I need two roots multiplied together to give me 1024. So I come over here to my list and I try and find something that goes into this. 1,000 didn't work. I used my calculator. 729 didn't work. 512. Hey, that's not too bad. Just put in my calculator and I find out that did that again. That 512 times 2 equals 1024. And the third root of 512, if we come over here, that would be 8. So we end up with 8 times the third root of 2. And usually we don't put the dot in there, we just write 8. Third root of 2. Are we good with that? So that's third root. So we could do any root. We could do fourth root, fifth root, and so on. I have the numbers here for fourth roots. 1, 16, 81, 215, and so on. Where are these fourth roots coming from? So this is 1 is 1 times 1 is 1 to the fourth power. 16 is 2 to the fourth power. 81 is 3 to the fourth power, and so on. So if I wanted to simplify the fourth root of, let's see here, how about 48? I need two fourth roots, like this, multiplied together. Fourth root of 48. Well, I know that these big cubes numbers, no way they're going to go into it, so I can cross those off. 16, hey, calculator, 16 times 3, what I find is 16 times 3 is 48. And the fourth root of 16 is 2. So I end up with 2 times the fourth root of 3. It is now simplified. I hope that answers your questions on how to simplify a root.